Okay, I'm here with Emmet, who's a friend of mine for a very long time, and I've always found him a very interesting man, and he's basically got a life story that revolves around magic in ways that we haven't really heard before. So I managed to pin him down in the flesh pits of Longford. And this is the first BR313 Symposium on location in the very glamorous Irish Midlands. And so welcome, Emmet, to the...
thank you, Thomas. Thank you very much.
Thank you for doing this.
And thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you're a busy dude.
So listen, what got you interested in the occult and magic? What initially kicked you off into that?
Thomas, it was a fleeting thought that stayed, let's just say. It was, I always knew it was there, but in my sort of early teens, 13, 14, when I first started to get acquainted with the internet, let's just say, obviously you discover things that are, just completely blow your mind, and I started studying the occult. It wasn't magic, because I thought magic was, well, I know it's all the same, but the stage magic, not the stuff that I would work with. But yeah, ever since those early days of the internet, I learned how to do certain rituals, like the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram, and I would wake up every morning before school, make sure I had the dagger in my hand. You draw the pentagram north, south, east, west, and the angels that you use are real, mythology. And these early websites actually told you the Enochian pronunciation. And I only found this out afterwards. Like people would say Michael or Uriel. You have to really put those vowels in. So and I told you step by step how to do it. And I thought this was brilliant. This was something new. But then I fell out of it for a couple of years. And I don't know why. I suppose like everything else, if you come back to it. Like my grandmother used to say, if it's for you, it won't pass you. So I guess I was kind of destined to be, I wouldn't call myself a magician. I don't know if that's the word that I'd use. I wouldn't be too comfortable using that word. But someone who works from the source, let's just say. But after I broke my leg in 2012, I was in a wheelchair for about 5 months. The doctors say I wouldn't walk for a whole year. I can prove them wrong, and I did. But I was in a wheelchair for about 5 months, and I had nothing to do. That's when I started to write music, electronic music, and that's when I started to get back into magic. And it was actually an interview between yourself and John Lamelash. Those early interviews.
That's gone back a good 8 years.
Yeah, it's a long time now. It feels like yesterday. But that's when I first discovered you. Right, I think you were just starting out, or it was a couple of years after you had written
it was
Anvil of the Psyche, I think.
Yeah, it was around 2014ish, I think.
That's right, yeah. So around that time, I discovered a lot of interesting people, and it just brought me back into it. It just kind of swooped me back up and cradled me in its arms, and I thought, right, this is for me. This is the world I want to live in.
When was your first result? I'll tell you when my first result was first, okay?
Alright.
When I was about 10, I was in the Holy Spirit school in Ballymun, and I was being bullied by just one of these big, these kind of kids with one eyebrow, and those kind of...
Oh, I know.
The fingernails going horizontal,
Yeah.
And probably webbed feet as well.
There's plenty of them around here.
I know. And there was a book of the book of black magic or something. They were all the rage when I was a kid. We used to pay paperbacks, and there was a thing in it that said it was a talisman to bind an enemy, to punish an enemy or bind an enemy, and I did it.
Yeah.
Next day he wasn't in school. Next day after that he wasn't in school.
Yeah.
Teacher told us a few days later that he'd had an accident and broken both his legs.
Jeez.
And that was the only time I've ever used it.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you, I was terrified.
Scared the shit out of you.
I was.
Yeah.
It was this kind of thing, I thought I'd done devil work.
Yeah. Mine was more of jestercraft. Because I was being bullied in school a lot as well. And what I used to do was I used to write in permanent marker on the table just symbols. But people would ask me what these symbols meant, and I'd be like, well, this means that the world is going to end on a certain time. And I would actually make people so afraid of me they didn't want to be anywhere near me. So the bullying stopped. Obviously, the bullying did stop. I know I had a reputation for being a black magician from very, very early years. These people were idiots.
It's a good one in school, I tell you.
Oh, jeez, and it worked. It did work. It kept them away. So, don't go anywhere near him. He put a spell on you. And even now, like my good friend Keith, he's from the travelling community. He still thinks that I'm going to curse him. It's like, Keith, this is not how it works, mate.
No.
You know, I've only just recently shown him how to do sigils, and he's been doing these sigils, and he says for the most part that at least one of them worked for him. You know, but I was doing them for another fella. I'm not going to say why. Doesn't matter, but it worked. It worked, and that's only about a week ago. You know, got him out of a lot of trouble. So he says, here, keep doing those sigils there, fella. You know. So, and that's only one very small part, you know. So
when I got back into it, it wasn't a sigil thing. In fact, I didn't know a lot about that stuff. I knew about it's called seals from the old magic, the old like Golden Dawn style magic. But I remember getting into cut-ups after I saw David Bowie on like some BBC documentary, and it was on the crackback.
William Burroughs used that as well.
Yeah, he started it. Well, he popularised it. There was a French guy before him. I can't remember his name, but he was doing cut-ups and how he was showing how he writes songs, and I was thinking this was when he was on the Cracked Actor tour, so late 70s, and I was still a kid in school, and I just remember like having this thing like this. There's something to this. This is the real shit. And so I used to, have kind of like the first word to pop into my head, write it down on a sheet of paper, then another word, then another word, then I would chop them all up and then just put them wherever they fell. And I'm telling you, it would actually predict the future. And it wasn't just vague things like, say, I'll give you an example. There was a kid in my school who was electrocuted. His name was Paul Skelly. He climbed up a high tension pylon and he came down like a meteorite. Okay, right? And on one of the books, I'd written his name Skelly in the book, like a week before. I don't know why. I don't know why. He wasn't like a kid that bothered me or anything, but he was one of these kids that was desperate for attention. So he was climbing the pylons to kind of show off, and he came down like a meteorite. I'm not kidding you, right? And I wasn't near. I saw it from a distance, and that was the end of him. But I wrote. I clearly had across one strip of the page. Skelly was here. Right, and then I went into school the next day, and before he died, he had carved into his desk with a you know when you get a biro and you can kind of if you dig it in deep it'll make an indent. He wrote Skelly was here. And he was dead like a few days later.
And what?
No, that's outside the bounds of possibility.
What was your reaction when it hit you?
Well, it was like I was. I didn't know about things like the daemon projecting into the future, but I said somehow, there wasn't any period where I said I caused this or anything like that, because I had no malice against this kid or anything. But it was like, it was one of those things that this time travel is involved in this.
The veil had opened up itself to this.
And that was the lesson I learned from that. A shock event throws itself back in time. And his daemon had caused him to do that. And my daemon had caused me to put the cut-ups in those orders. Skelly was here. So that daemon had thrown it back. So that was the lesson I learned from that. It was like that space-time was not fixed. You could travel. You could use magic to do time travel.
You could go up, down, back, forward, in, out. Even isn't that what the hypercube is supposed to represent?
Yeah. If you look at the painting by Dali. Corpus Hypercubus. It's Jesus Christ crucified on a cube.
Yes, that's
it's
right.
A folded out cube, right? But that was at the point that's in the that's an amazing. It's
a
originally based.
photo, yeah.
Yeah, it's originally based on a painting called Saint John of the Cross.
Okay.
No, it's not. It's a different painting. But Corpus Hypercubus was when he was really studying quantum theory, and all through his life he was fascinated by it. In fact, while he was dying, Dali, in his house in Catalonia, he used to put on conferences between the world's top quantum thing. And his thing was that although that Christ was a kind of an expression of the hypercube.
Yeah.
You know, like the Book of Isaiah. Now, you know, you don't take these things literally, of course, but the Book of Isaiah was the past, the prediction, his death, his transformation, his transubstantiation, and then his immortality was all represented in the hypercube.
Wow.
So, I mean, this is the thing. Like, I know, you know, I'm kind of like not anti-Christian, but I have a lot of problems with it, like all of us. But there's also grimoires and that stuff, you know?
I know, exactly, and that's why I would never throw the baby out with the bathwater, because if you can stand in front of any god humbly, then you're doing good.
Yeah.
You're doing good. Even if it's a god that you do not like, you disagree with, you hate, you have to have a bit of humility with this kind of stuff, because they can fuck you up. And it's not even about that. I don't think it's even about that. It's about being able to share in this one existence, you know? Whether it's with a god, whether it's with a demon, same thing to me, you know. I worship them all and none at the same time.
Yeah, they're avatar. They're all useful avatars.
Yes, yeah.
That's the way I'd put them.
Yeah.
And the Christian thing, I mean, someone was talking to recently a few months ago, changed my whole mind about the Book of Revelations, and said it's probably a magical grimoire for the accumulation of wealth.
Oh, big time. So John of Patmos was definitely, you know, now there is suggestions that he was breathing in this mold and it was causing him to have these hallucinations. But you see, I think that's a very half-assed way of trying to explain it. Because obviously this thing is full of metaphor, and that's not just one bad psychedelic trip, man. That's not that. There's so much more going on there, and also it's been added to and taken away from. So it wasn't just St. John of Patmos. That was the island, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that much. But yeah, it can't just be. You know, this is a certain set of, let's just say, boxes, and you know, if it doesn't fit in the box, we just throw it out. That's what 99.9% of the people on this planet are like.
And if you look at books that like famous magical texts, the Book of Saint Cyprian, that's nearly all Christian stuff, isn't it?
I mean,
that's very dark magic in there.
I'm only halfway through reading it, and even now when I see the word Jesus, I bless myself 3 times just from reading it so much, because you do that when you're. Well,
I call upon the Holy Spirit as I'm killing this black cat and planting 2 apple seeds in his sockets.
It was something.
It's really intense stuff.
I know, man. I know, and it was intense reading for me. But I knew I could deal with it, you know, because that is a dark book. But you know, I find myself.
If someone was to ask you why it's a dark book, it's kind of a hard. Well, it goes deep into animal sacrifice and things like this.
Yeah.
But all this Christian stuff around it, it's hard to just.
Kidney beans in the eyes, wasn't it?
Kidney beans in the eyes. After you kill a black cat on the 3rd moon of the month, so it's classic.
And then you use that
sorcery.
Yeah, exactly. And the fact that it had stages written out, and it's easy to understand. But trying to get my head around all that fucking Latin that I had to read. Forgive my French, but you know, all the Latin that's contained within. Within a lot of the exorcism banishings as well, that he would have it all in Latin. No even English translation, obviously, you know. But trying to get my head around that book. For the most part, it was quite easy, but there's some parts of it I can't really crack. So it's like with everything else. If you go back and you watch, like, let's say, a movie again, you're going to start seeing things in it that you didn't see before. Yeah. So, and even though you think you might have forgotten the stuff that you did forget on a conscious level, it's still in there. It still stays in there. You know. So that's why these things need to be looked at and read and come back even after 50 years. You know, as long as you live, you will always get something new out of something old. Yeah. You know.
I think any work of fiction can be turned into a grimoire. I really do.
Oh yeah, big time.
Like even comic books and things like that.
Yeah, it was just Alan Moore stuff.
Yeah,
you know?
and you look at like the way Parsons and Hubbard were taking Crowley's Moonchild, which is kind of like an adventure novel, kind of.
Yeah.
But it blew a lot of. It's like Dennis Wheatley stuff. It blows a lot of secrets for the time, and it would introduce people to things like yoga and stuff, and that would have been like in Victorian times. That would have been like really exotic, and quantum theory, multiverses and stuff like that. But have you ever? That was really the beginning. People talk about Austin Osman Spare being the beginning of chaos magic, but I think it was really Parsons and Hubbard taking Moonchild and trying to turning it into a grimoire. Yeah. Have you ever?
All these things are kind of discovered at the same time, so there's not really one person. Like I mean, Swan's light bulb would have been different from Edison's or whoever the fuck he stole it on, but they were all sort of. The ideas were conjured up at the same time and given to various people around the planet.
It's a shame. That's why music scenes are so similar. That we have a music scene or an art scene that develops in a certain place, and it's more than just they happen to be there. It's like a calling.
Exactly.
It really is. Have you ever worked with any Lovecraftian stuff?
I haven't. No, and it's only since recently that I've started to like view videos and through your work, because. I've said this to you before, Thomas. My sort of special place to go whenever I'm feeling down or low is that Lovecraft, the Providence.
Yeah,
the documentary.
Tell me about that. Why did Leave of Providence reach you so deeply?
It just shook something in me that I couldn't even explain. I'd say it awakened Cthulhu in me first watching that documentary that you did, because I didn't know anything about Lovecraft at all. So, and the further I got into it, like the Yellow King and all this sort of stuff, things started to click. I understood it,
And you told me too earlier on that you were afraid of the deep ocean. This is almost, isn't this like the crowned and conquered child of the ocean? Though you're actually conquering the depths. I've done. The Lovecraftian stuff is very real. I know people say, how could it be? I mean, they even slag off.
Of course it's real.
Because anything, it's like Simon's Necronomicon, which every teenage kid, it's like it's edgy because it has edgy Korean. Still works. Still works.
Yeah.
And even Colin Wilson's The Book of Dead Names, which is a spoof and a farce.
Right.
Still works.
I consider this grimoire that I'm writing at the minute to be a spoof, but it's the right kind of spoof. It's sort of like the jester in a book, but he's still doing the exact same thing as all the other spoofs. Because that's just, it is a spoof. It's a giant spoof. It's how people take it, So, and I will say that this book, it's fictional magic, if I could call it that. I've tried to find a word for it, but it's based on fiction, but it's to get you into that magical state. Yeah. That's the idea behind it, So
the actual story becomes almost like a transformative thing to pull you in there. Yeah,
exactly.
I remember when I first heard Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, that did that to me. And music was the concept of okay, this is not just me listening to pop records, I'm somewhere else now. Yeah.
It's like trying to explain somebody who is, do you know that SCP Foundation that I posted back a while ago? I started writing my own stories for that. And it is like an underground community of magicians. They don't know they're magicians, but they are creating tulpas and egregores, left, right, and centre.
Oh yeah.
And even now, when you there was this really funny one where it was titled "The People of Lidl." The people of IKEA. The people of IKEA in the red and the yellow, and then I see
blue and yellow.
Yeah, the Swedish colours. But I see during the lockdown how people were going crazy in IKEA. They were just losing it. They were absolutely losing it. Now this was before the lockdown, before the pandemic, that this piece of the SCP Foundation was written. And lo and behold, it turned out to be true. I don't know whether they had willed it into being, or whether they could see past. Maybe it's a bit of both. I don't know. But it was just so uncanny, Thomas, And how can you say to yourself that magic doesn't exist when when this sort of stuff goes on all the time, every single day.
Back in when the lockdown was really bad, I devised this thing called the egg ritual.
Yes, I remember.
And yes, I wasn't expecting the egg to end the lockdown or something, but I could see how many people were depressed.
Yeah.
And to give them that ritual to do,
Yeah.
the casting it, which is into an egg, into a river, with their own message on it, or sigil, whatever, it was a magical state, because it took them out of the black magic hex that the media had everyone in, and put them into a position where they had control.
Yeah.
And that's all I wanted from it.
Look at Lost Its Shine by April 9.
Yeah.
Look at what happened there.
The case has actually stopped and went into decline now on April 9.
And Prince Philip died as well on April 9. And it was just so, okay, alright, you got me, you know. So.
And people were saying things like, I felt really, they went out with the kids to do it by the river, and they said, we felt, for the first time in months, we felt contented. That's because it was a way of saying, look, it's of your spirit saying, you don't owe me mainstream media, you don't owe me government bureaucrats.
Exactly.
And that was the purpose of it, and that was the main purpose of it.
And you know what, when we all did it together, that sense of community, even within the tribe, you know, even though we're all in our own little different parts of the world, we're all doing our own thing, it's still so strong, you know, I can feel between all of us.
Oh yeah.
You know the next person even though you don't know them.
Yeah.
Just because they're part of the tribe.
Oh yeah, and it's just, and it's almost, and there's no formality to it. That's the beauty of it. It's almost like hobos. Yeah. That's what I would describe us as. We're the
I'd agree with you.
The tribe is quantum hobos. Really, we are, and we have developed, you know, like the two hobos in the old days in the American Depression. One going by on a train car, the other one going the other. We're not saying anything. They'll just go like.
There's a knowing.
There's a fucking knowing. That's exactly it.
Yeah, a knowing without knowing.
I want to talk about your sigils. I've always loved the way you do sigils. Now I do sigils in my ones because I learned them that way, and also because I have a background in electronics. I draw schematics. They're very square like, but I do fluffy and embellish the circles around them and things like so. I do embellish them, but the actual thing itself is reduced to minimalism. It's reduced to the minimal thing, and then it's your ones I know have this lovely elegant, almost like Japanese or Islamic the Islamic
yes.
That I think is beautiful. Now, did you find that actually helped it?
I did actually. I felt, because I respected it more, I felt as if I actually put my 100% into the sigil. You know, it wasn't just a half-assed, couple of squiggly lines and that's it. But I mean, I suppose we all develop this through it's the magical developing. But I'd be looking at other people's sigils and I go, well, that's really interesting, and that's really interesting. I'd love to do something with that, but I don't know how. So I tried to incorporate all the different, examples into my one sigil. And even though my sigils, there's a lot going on there. There is an awful lot, and I know sigils are supposed to be broken down into their simplest form, but that's not the way I see it. It's telling a story, and if you've only got one or two lines, that's not much of a story. I mean, it'll still go into your subconscious, it'll still go in there, but your mind can't play with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly.
There's
almost a dance.
Yes.
Yeah. You know where I saw that once? There was a chap works up in Sligo, a Pakistani guy, and he's a young guy, but he's a devout Muslim. But he's fascinated by all calligraphy, and he does calligraphy. He does Irish writing, and he's really good at it. He uses that paintbrush that has a kind of thick ink on it, and he showed me he was doing Celtic Gaelic lettering, and he was doing the old Irish.
Same with me, mate, Keith.
Brilliant, right? Yeah, it's flawless. Yeah. But when he was doing a verse from the Quran, it was almost like this, like something else was guiding him the day.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
What he wrote, although it was quite complex, there wasn't a spot of ink dropped. The spacing between the letters was perfect, even though he went like that.
Wow.
It was almost like his soul was writing that verse. The clarity of it, and whether the serifs on the curve at the end of the letters.
Yeah.
Jesus, amazing.
Yeah.
And
even that I like to incorporate into my sigils. Like
I know,
I'm starting to study an awful lot of Arabic marriage and Persian magic. My brother is half Persian. My brother's half Iranian. Now he wants nothing to do with religion, nothing to do with any of this stuff. But because the Persian side is part of my family, I feel as if I'm obliged. Well, I wouldn't say obliged. Obliged to means it's forced. This isn't forced. But there's so much that the Arab world has lost because of the fundamental aspects of.
Well, the Persians were a very pagan people before it. I mean, both the Zoroastrians and the Tenjins was a very deep pagan culture.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes them. They seem different than Arabs that way. Is that because they've had this very different pagan world to draw upon? I mean, that's a whole. I mean.
Oh no, I would agree with that big time.
Yeah, and
big time.
Isn't it funny how the most pagan countries are the ones most taken over by churches?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or organised religion.
Organised religion. Or communism. Look at China.
Same
Look
thing.
at China before all of this. The amount of gods that they got rid of.
Yeah.
You know? And it's so sad. It is really, really sad. But I mean, I see these things as sort of, and people would call me like bad for saying this, but it's almost necessary for us to realise how good we actually have it. Yeah. We need the Christians, we need the Islamists, we kind of need this to know where we're actually at right now at this moment. You know, I know there's all this shit that's going on, but what can we do to better it? You know, not that there's shit going on, there's always shit going on, and there's always shit that will go on, but how do we create almost a way out of this without destroying? Because if we destroy the chaotic aspect, we're
I don't think there is a way. I think there's supposed to be schisms.
I think so. And I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah.
I wouldn't change anything going on for the world.
Yeah,
really.
There's a verse in the Puranas. It's like I am you, you are me, we are the others. It's like separation is absolutely vital.
Yeah.
Isn't this what transhumanism is, to try and make us all mush?
Just like I am the walrus.
Yeah, I am mush.
Yeah.
And that's like if we didn't have these schisms, if we didn't. I mean, I know it's kind of sounds cruel and cold, but
no, not if it's coming from a realistic point of view or a realistic angle.
Conflict is what causes people to strive for better. That line, so. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Big time. You know, and I've come through some amount of shit. I mean, I was homeless in Chicago. I should not have survived that. You know, the amount of guns that were pulled at me and just, you know, but my mum always used to pray to my nanny. Whenever I'd find myself in these situations or these countries, she would say, Nanny, send him a friend. Just send him a friend. And she wouldn't pray to God, she prayed to Nanny. Just send him a friend. Because Nanny was a bit of a witch, just like my man. Anyway, you know.
Do you want to go there? How you ended up on the streets?
Well,
you don't have to.
No, I will. The deal is I was staying with somebody and I was supposed to be getting money sent over to me, which was pretty much my goal. You know, my mum was supposed to, because I was getting it into my bank account at that time, because I had just broken my leg, you see. So, I was going to say something there, but I'm not, I'll tell you afterwards. So she was supposed to be sending me over this money that was supposed to pay for my food and my rent until I got a job. Now, I had no green card, I had no working visa, I had just got on a plane and got over there. I just wanted to get the hell out of Ireland. But, the payments stopped, because she was blowing all that money on weed. That's when I started to separate myself from that old side of me, which was the old little hippie, the old, you know, dope smoking Emmet. You know, it's not who I am anymore. When I seen the effects that it had on the family, you know. But that's how I ended up homeless and on the streets. And I'll tell you something, I wouldn't even have changed that for the world, because it made me who I am today, and it humbles you. That kind of crap, it shocks you into where you should be. You know, gives you a good kick up the arse.
It's experience, isn't it? Stories.
Yeah. But we all need this good kick up the arse. Every single one of us. You know?
Well, that's why schisms will never go away and conflict will never go away, because if you live in a situation where you're not trying to survive in nature, the universe, the cosmos, whatever, will still find things that make you survive.
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is why, you know, that these people are incredibly wealthy or unhappy.
Yeah.
Because they're not being challenged.
Yeah. And people who have nothing, you know, have own the world.
Yeah.
Do really own the world.
I remember that like when I first went to Mexico. These people there hadn't got a pot to piss in. I mean, I was quite shocked by the poverty of Mexico. Yet they would give you their last tortilla.
The same with the blacks in Chicago.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I was the only white kid that was staying in these black missionaries, these homeless missionaries, and I would walk around with my Bible, you know, hallelujah and all that shit. And if they had known who I was and what I believed in and what I practiced, oh by God, I would have been kicked out like that. But anyway. I'll be walking around with this Bible and I'll be quoting verses from it. Now, being from Ireland, Catholicism is hammered into you, so you're going to know a couple of Bible verses, whether you like it or not. You know, more so than what a lot of the American Christians would be considered. So if I could quote Bible verses and I had this Bible under my hand, I was as good as a fucking priest to them. You know. So, and it got me out of some serious situations, Thomas, you know. Now, I wasn't pretending to be pious or anything like that. I was just, Emmet,
holy man.
Yeah, Emmet, put the Bible under your arm and just do your damn thing. You do what you gotta do. Go to the Salvation Army and get your shit sorted out and come back, you know. So,
And how long did that last for?
Oh, God, I was over there for about 5 months. And I was on the streets for, let's say, the best part of 3.5.
How did you get back to Ireland?
I had a ticket booked.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a return flight. So I was, I wasn't going to it wasn't a one-way flight. Obviously, I'm not that stupid because if I didn't do that, I would have been left over there.
Yeah.
So, because my parents weren't in a position to help me, they couldn't. They just couldn't. You know. I remember my mum screaming at my dad, saying, would you go into Aer Lingus? I don't know what my dad said to them, but for some reason they thought that I was mentally ill and I had to go and get a form signed by the doctors in Rush Medical Centre because they thought that, oh my God, this man's son is really, really ill and he's really sick and he needs to come home right now. We can't let him on the fucking plane, he's a flight risk. So my dad ended up making stuff worse, God love him. It didn't work out too well. I got all that sorted out, and they realised that I wasn't as big a flight risk as they thought I was. But I was almost nearly not let on a plane, Thomas.
Why?
Because they thought I was a flight risk. Because my dad went into Aer Lingus saying, "Oh, my son's over in Chicago and he's got this and he's got that and he's got a bad hip and blah 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 and he's in a bad place at the minute." So they registered this as this kid's crazy. You know, there's something up with this kid. We can't let him on the plane. So I was that close away from being denied.
That must have been a long wait.
Because on my name, when they typed in my name, there was this little red dot over my name, which meant flight risk. My dad trying to go in to make things better and just making it 10 times worse. God love him. God love him.
Then you come back with that, use that red dot to claim disability. And you're set for life.
Oh, Thomas, I've pulled some fast ones. I have really pulled some fast ones. Whatnot. So, yeah, so it was like, the best way I would put it would be the dark side of the moon, you know, compared to the light side that we're so used to seeing, because not a lot of people know about Finnish magic, and I wouldn't be qualified enough to talk about it myself. You know, it's just I know little bits here and there. But like you said, the spiritual landscape, like, you know, that in-between state is definitely a hell of a lot darker and necessary, I believe.
The woods.
Yes.
I always think of like the woods in the north. Like I imagine like the entities of those woods are so different than anything.
Yep. And because they're not your woods, there's something very ominous and Cthulhu about it. Very much Cthulhu about it, you know. So
it's like in and they probably got some really great old growth woods as well.
Oh yes.
That we don't have here really anymore.
Oh man.
Fangorn forest type things, you know.
When I first hit a Finnish forest, I was just, oh my God! Even the size of the trees, man. They were huge. They were massive. Like these things, everything in those forests was alive. It was definitely alive. You know, I could see it, I could feel it, I could smell it. You know, I just couldn't touch it. But I could touch it on a deeper level. You know.
Well, that was the thing. Like, I've been talking a lot about people about the woods, and the woods have to be approached as the entire macrocosm is the entity.
Yeah.
You know, yes, there's like, you know, the way in Indo-European paganism there's like there's the personal soul and then there's the racial soul.
Yeah.
Well, I think the same thing applies to the forest and the oceans as well.
Oh, yeah.
That you have the individual tree soul or animal soul that's there, but you also have the forest over soul.
Yes. Yes.
You're over person, and it's something. And now they've discovered that trees talk to themselves amongst themselves through their root systems. Yeah. So that shows it's very organised.
They found that if human beings talk very nicely to plants when they're growing, plants will grow better. Yeah. But if we start to give them abuse and yell at them, they will die within a matter of weeks.
That's been known for hundreds of years. I think Franciscan monks or someone discovered that.
Yeah, and it's amazing. It really is amazing that how we are all symbiotically connected, you know. And it should be a no-brainer at this stage, really, with the amount of knowledge we supposedly know, you know, as a species. But that it just goes to show how much we know, you know.
Yeah, the forest to me is a great personality thing. You want to know a real person, bring them into the forest and camp overnight. Yeah. And I've had this conversation with numerous people. Some people just freak the fuck out. Yeah. And hard men too. I'll tell you a story.
I've known a couple of them.
when we were kids, Massey's Wood up in the Hellfire Club in Dublin.
Oh, I remember you talking about this.
That's an intense place. That is the Massey's Wood itself. Yeah. And it's full of megaliths in the woods.
There was some sort of crime or murder committed there a couple of years ago.
Well, but it's there's like the serial killers and everything have been known up right up there. It's and it's just underneath the Hellfire Club. Yeah. But there's an old mansion, and it just vanished years ago. But all the bits of the mansion are still in the woods.
That is creepy.
The rooms, big time. And I remember we were camping there in complete darkness as kids, and the forest was black. But you might see this dome shape of light. You know what that would have been? An old doorway that was in the woods.
No way.
Yep. But we were camping there one night.
That's kind of like the stairs in the woods, kind of creepy. Pastas, you know.
It was like a magical other thing. There wasn't. It was the portal. It was like that survived. And you could definitely see the light was different between that and the surrounding forest. Like it amplified the photons. But we went camping up there, and there was this one kid I remember. Bango Jones was his name. That was his nickname, Bango. Jones, and he would call Bango because he had these like eyes that were like bugged out. I don't know how they came out, but he was a thug. He big one of these. You know, when he was 15, he's like 6 foot and punches you around. And me and my friend
got the eyebrow ridge and everything going on.
A gang of them, and we're all camping up there, and they're all like acting like hard men and everything. We're about 16, 17, and myself and my friend Tommy Farrell started. Let's summon the devil around the fire, and they were like, you won't do that. And the two of us were throwing sugar. You know when you throw sugar onto the fire to make us back. And it says, Lords of Darkness, come forward, our souls are willing. And we deliberately planned this in advance, you know. And, oh, jeez, it was hilarious. And it was like... That
was like the same thing I did with the school, with the writing at the end of the world on the desk.
Well, these hard men, in 5 minutes, were the Hail Marys were being screamed out and everything.
You couldn't see their arse for the cloud of dust behind it.
Terrified. Terrified. And then you get back and you tell anybody what happened, they'll fucking do you.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know those types. I know plenty of those types.
Yeah, it was always the hard man.
And it was the hard men in school. Remember when I was doing that stuff? They were the ones to freak out the most and the first. You know, so how do you know all this shit? Yeah. You know, I got them to stay away by that. You know, I knew the kind of idiocy that I was dealing with. This is gonna be a piece of cake. You know. Get these lads, and I don't even need to do much, you know.
Yeah, the more physically thuggish they are, the more spiritually fragile they are.
Oh, big time. Big time. I
Big fucking
agree
time.
with that 100%.
It's the quiet little fella or woman in the corner who has the greatest spiritual depth to survive those things. It's the most it's like what they lost in spiritual foundation they gained in like brawn and attitude.
Yeah.
It's really
well, I
interesting.
think it is a kind of a compensation, I think.
A big time.
Yeah. They do have to compensate somehow because, you know, we all know that this is a dangerous fucking world, both on the spiritual level and on the physical level. And we need our weapons. We need to be able to, like, you know, the anvil of the psyche. You know, just that quote in itself just says it all. We do need to have our spiritual weapons unsheathed, you know, at all times, because, you know, there's everything out there that's just willing to take from you, you know.
How do you feel about psychedelics and entheogens?
It's hard to say, because I see the way things are going now, and with it being popularized. I mean, when it was underground and subculture, yeah, I would have been a proponent of that. But now, I can see how much it helps out people, and as long as it helps them out, brilliant. But a lot of people don't realise that they're playing with fire, as I have done and gotten burned on many occasions myself, you know. I remember the first time I took LSD, I took 3 tabs of acid. I was only about 14, 15, and I took 3 tabs of acid, and I remember staying up all night just freaking the fuck out, because I was expecting to see fairies and goblins and this, that and the other. No, wasn't seeing any of that shit. I was sitting there freaking out, going, well, I go up to my mum's bed and climb in beside her because I am really fucking scared here, you know. You know, that's how people are viewing these things these days, and it's unfortunate because there's so much knowledge to be gained and healing to be gained. You know, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater either, you know, because it's helped so many people. It's helped me, you know. I mean, I used to go on I remember about 2 months in, and me and Katya were going picking flag arak, the amanita mushroom, which are way stronger in Finland compared to the Irish amanitas. Oh my god, that knocked me for sixpence. It really, really did. But I'm glad that it did, you know. I'm glad that it did. I wasn't expecting the Finnish mushrooms to be anywhere near as potent as the Irish.
The old growth woods.
Yeah.
The Liberty caps here are stronger, though, I think, than anywhere I've had them.
And a lot of people say that. A lot of people do say that. And all I've needed was, you know, the amount of Liberty caps you could fit into one hand.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very, very small amount of them.
Yeah.
You know, with some lemon juice. Always with lemon juice.
Why do you use lemon juice?
Because it helps release. It's kind of like with opiates. You know the way people would mix lemon juice with opiates.
Yeah.
It releases the morphine. It releases the alkaloids. You know, and it allows them to get into your system a lot quicker, and to hit those direct targets, those targets that they need to hit.
Yeah.
You know, so lemon juice with everything I've found. You know, yeah. Like, I mean, a lot of the heroin users use that synthetic shit, the ascorbic acid, for when they cook up. I never did any of that. I always used pure lemon juice. Never had any problems. Still have all my veins, you know. So, and even lads around here that I would have in the past gotten off that ascorbic acid shit, you know, they said thank you very much, because, you know, they'd all be, none of them would have a vein left between them, you know, these days. So, you know, there's a lot to say about the lemon juice.
I discovered residual aftershocks of psilocybins, Liberty caps. That it was very surprising to me and very remarkable. You know, when you hear like them say, "Oh man, I'm having a flashback from the '60s when I took the whole thing of the LSD flashback." Yeah. That stuff is real. That stuff.
Oh yeah, big time.
But it's different with the Liberty caps because, and I'll tell you how it happened to me, and it was fantastic. It was I was about 19. I was working with this guy called David Victory, and we were up and I'd been like mega dosing all that autumn long, and just for fun, and listening to Pink Floyd records and things like that. And
as long as it was just for fun as well, you weren't getting
very
fundamentally into this, and I think that's where a lot of people are going wrong. They're thinking that this is a cure-all, and it's not.
It's not. And the whole thing of the depression and stuff, maybe it does work. I don't know, but then. When anything is sold as a panacea, I'm always wary. But we were up in the mountains, and this was like weeks after the mushrooms were gone. It was like probably on the other side of Christmas. And I will never forget this. And he had the same experience because he was tripping a lot with me too as well. And during the autumn, and we were up in the Dublin mountains. And honest to God, Emmet, this is absolutely the truth. Completely sober, by the way, not anything. And we were looking down on the city from some hill around Saga, up above Tala. Just enjoying the view of the bay. What we saw was another world.
Go on.
We looked down on Dublin Bay, and yet we saw the world in microcosm. I can't explain it. And he saw it too. We pointed out. We saw the whole of Britain, which you can't see from there, stretching from the Welsh coast all the way up to the Scottish Western Isles. We saw the Isle of Man as clear as that cup on the table here. God. We saw ships sailing past the sea. Everything was super amplified, super compressed, and super vivid.
Well, isn't that one of the theories, that these things were discovered and taken to help with hunting?
No, I didn't know this. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, because it improves your eyesight in a lot of different ways. Like very low doses, I'm talking about here. I'm not talking about tripping doses. It makes things seem brighter. It makes colours seem more vibrant. But these things were used because of, let's just say, the like, you know, the way an animal can blend into its background. When you take these things, you can see the animal as clear as it didn't have any background.
Yeah.
Because your brain was now processing the sensory information coming into it on a different level, on a higher vibrancy level. So they were able to scope out a lot more things, and as well, this stuff gives you energy as well. So they could go for hours and hours on an empty belly, you know, because you're not going to be very hungry while you're on psilocybin, I'll tell you that much.
No, it fills you up like herbs, like, you know, like cumin fills you up.
Yes,
It has that sensation that you've eaten tons of like starchy foods almost. Yeah. There's an expansion in your stomach.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that though, and he saw it too. It was like, when you hear about like Maslow's peak experience.
And did you look over at each other and just have that instant knowing as well?
Yeah,
you didn't even need to say anything.
And he says, how come we can see the whole of Britain and we can see the Isle of Man? And then we looked the other direction and we could see the mountains of Connemara sticking up over the Irish Midlands. Honest to God, you could actually see the mountains of Connemara over the. And I can always remember there used to be a gigantic power station in the Midlands. I don't know if it's still there. Lansborough, yes. That was massive, and we could see that as clear as anything. Really. And behind that, the peaks of the mountains behind it.
I think if you had started off, you and whatever his name was, had have started off looking for that, you would never have found it.
No.
The fact that you stumble into it, and I think that's one of the big factors here with psychedelics, is we're looking for something. We don't know what we're looking for, but we know we're looking for something. But you need to be able to stumble into this unknowingly like a child. You know, I think in order for it to have any benefit on you. Because if you're going to go into this all bravado, this is going to cure my addiction and my depression, and it doesn't, you start to lose faith.
Oh, you get worse.
You get worse.
And
And you can actually come out of these states.
I could imagine it would feel like a term of betrayal.
And you wouldn't even necessarily have to have had a bad trip or anything. It's just the sense of utter failure and loss.
A despondency.
Exactly. So I think we're going about this whole psychedelic thing the wrong way.
I agree. I think it's becoming this kind of like born again Christian thing. Oh, it'll save you.
Oh yeah, big time. And nothing can save you except yourself. You know. Now I think there's a lot of things that can help. You know, magic and the occult. I think this is why people get mixed up, and I will say deliberately mixed up in the occult, and it does fuck them up. And I've known one or two of them myself. You know, and it does attract all kinds of fucking crazy people. You know. But, you know, there are a lot of people out there who just know magic. They have it. They live it every single day, you know?
Yeah, they have that natural kind of ability to them.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a UFO?
I'm not sure about that one. I've seen a lot of shit, Tom. I've seen gods, for fuck's sake. I seen, what's that god? Abraxas with all the eyes.
Yeah, I've seen that. And
he scared the shit out of me. big time.
I saw it in a Hindu form.
Yeah.
Which is like when they hear now talking about the real angels like made of hundreds of eyes and practice. I saw I saw that in the Hindu version. A mountain of eyeballs.
And this bastard was definitely judging me. He was like looking at me. He was really scoping me out. This dude. He was really sort of. And I thought, and I was just one half of an LSD tab I took. This thing, and I was just lying there in bed, and literally, the DMT spirit molecule that literally opened up in front of me, and I thought, oh fuck, what have I done? I've just cracked something. I hope it wasn't me, And there's Abraxas staring me with, and the eyes were blinking as well, all at separate times, and it was just. But getting back to the UFO thing, I don't think so. And if I did at the time. You see, I always had a fascination with aliens ever since I was a kid. I was always asking people about them. I was always questioning people, what do you know about this? And I remember hearing a talk saying, if you had been an abductee from a very early age, you would have had a fascination with these creatures. So I don't know. Maybe I could have seen, and I just couldn't remember it. But
I seen one after. It's the funniest thing. After thinking I'd never see one.
Yeah.
It was it's about 6-7 years ago now. It was in Strandhill in Sligo, and the beach, and I was packing up after work and loading the back of the car up with my stuff. And I looked up in the sky, and there above Sligo Bay was a thing that looked like a tic tac.
No way.
Yep, it looked like a tic tac, and it moved. In a no wings, no propulsion system, nothing.
No sound or nothing.
And then it vanished.
Gone.
But that's the exact shape of it was a giant tic tac.
Yeah.
And then funny enough, I've been looking at stuff lately and people have been reporting this thing. Now I was convinced then afterwards that I'd made that myself.
Yeah.
Because I said to myself, I was like, I'll probably never see a UFO now, I've always wanted to.
Yeah.
And then I kind of made myself see one. And
do you know there's that guy in America, this black dude who can make UFOs appear?
Amazing, isn't it? Yeah. Reverend Amos or something, his name,
yeah, that's really, really cool.
That news report where the guy is, it did appear, but
it wasn't expecting that.
Maybe, hey guys, it's like, no, he made a UFO appear. Deal with it, deal with it.
Yeah, he made several of them appear.
Yeah, deal with it
at once. So, and you just want to see the look on those newscasters' faces. It's kind of like
I found that very
priceless.
funny. Well, guys, he did make the UFO manifest, but hey, who knows what that was? No, it was a UFO.
It was a UFO.
Yeah, it was a good
UFO.
And he made it manifest.
Yeah.
At the end of it. It's a very funny news video, that.
Yeah. But the fact that we can make these things manifest, and I've always had the belief that if I did see a UFO, I would look straight the fuck away. It's just like politics. Don't get involved with the fairies, man. It's not your world.
Well, I think it is the fairy thing anyway.
Oh yeah.
And it's also trauma based. A lot of it.
You see, because if I'm standing there staring at the UFO, I've probably been gone for 3 hours, like everybody would have said. So who knows where they would have taken me. Alright, I don't want to deal with you lads. Just stay away from me, kind of thing.
When I was working in Wall Street, I was actually working in JP Morgan. I was a graphic designer, and I was reading a book. I think it was the Bud Hopkins or John Mack book on UFO abductions or something.
Yeah.
And one of the women I worked with said, "Oh, that stuff. Are you interested in that stuff?" And I said, "Yeah, I am. That's kind of fascinating."
Yeah.
She goes, "Let me tell you what happened to my sister." And she said that, and this was mad. Wait till you hear this one. Her husband came home, Wall Street type. And told her in their big fancy house,
typical yuppie kind of,
but up more money than that, up above that, like investment banker, hedge fund manager type thing, and told her that he was leaving the wife of 20 odd years for a young chick he met, just out of the blue, and she was devastated because there was no hint of this ever happening. He walked,
never is.
She walked out to the back garden in a state of absolute shock. Then walked back in the living room, and in the living room was floating a gigantic UFO. Inside the living room.
What?
She said it was a flying saucer in the living room.
Yeah.
The shock opened a portal or something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah, and they all thought she was going mad, and she said, no. And I had a similar experience, not with an Egyptian god. I was coming out from a very bad operation my liver became infected from from an infection, and I had a huge chunk of my liver and my gallbladder removed. I was in bits, so I was really sick.
Shit.
And I lost tons amount of blood and loads of flesh.
I've got a story similar.
Lying in the hospital, I'm lying in the bed, and then at the end of the bed I see the Egyptian god Sobek, the one with the crocodile head. I have no interest at all in Egyptian stuff, really. I wouldn't be at the top of my line of things.
Yeah.
But you know when you said you were being judged by Abraxas? Well,
was that the same?
This Sobek guy, he looked at me like, you maggot.
Yeah, that's what Abraxas was looking at me like. How dare you? How fucking
you
dare you?
maggot.
Coming into my house.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like, sorry, you know.
But he was as solid as you were. He wasn't like mist or anything.
Something similar happened to me with my first serious hag incident. I was very, very ill. I was living in Kinsale at the time, and I had a very, very bad chest infection. Seriously bad chest infection. And I was quite sick for about a week after this. But when I started to come down with this chest infection, I got the worst night hag attack of my life. She literally pulled me out of bed by the dreadlocks and was swinging me around the room, bashing me off every single wall. I swear to God, and I was trying to grab onto stuff and I couldn't. And she was screaming at me and this, that, and the other. And this went on forever. And the next thing I wake up and it's bright and whatnot. But I was getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and I had to go on antibiotics, and they were going to have to hospitalise me at one stage. But there is a link, there is a definite link, just because I've experienced it a couple of times myself, you know.
I had an aunt, God rest her soul, she's dead now. Her life was destroyed by night hag.
Yeah.
Her whole life was destroyed by night hag.
Yeah.
She had two marriages at end because every night it was happening.
Apparently, all the men on my mother's side, the Dullaghan side, now you know the Dullaghan, the headless horseman is the Dullaghan.
Yeah.
So there's obviously, you know, I'm not going to say there's a connection there, but all the men on my mum's side always seem to suffer from night hag syndrome. The females don't, but the males do. And they all had to have therapy and whatnot.
It's like the banshee. It runs in families.
Yeah. So the Dullaghans, for some reason, you know, seem to be plagued by this night hag. I remember my mum saying this to me when I was trying to tell her about it. You know, I was trying to talk to her about it, and she says, you know, all of your uncles, all of my brothers suffered from this same thing that you're talking about. She didn't say night hag. She doesn't know about any of this stuff, really, you know. So so I found that really, really interesting. So I thought, right, I'm not going to work at making her go away, but if she could just stop bashing me against the wall, would be nice, you know. I'll be fine with that. But so I found that sort of kind of, you know, when you have those moments like, whoa, you know, somebody else has this too, you know, because I've suffered from sleep paralysis ever since I was little. You know, and nothing really set it off. It was just there. It was just there.
Isn't it though amazing when you start adding up all the mystical experiences, just like any person's had in their life, how many there are, and then you have people saying, "Oh, there's nothing mystical."
I was just gonna say, and those same people who would come up to you at the end of a conference and go, "Actually, this did happen to me."
Yeah,
you know, the same type of people saying, "Oh, there's nothing beyond this."
Yeah, material stuff.
It's like I have to laugh at those people. I really do. I don't know whether to feel sorry for them or what, but you know, if we all need magic in our lives, no matter what.
And strange.
Oh yes. Oh yeah.
Big strange and the unknown.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's like, you know, who wants to live in a world where everything is known?
Exactly. I wouldn't.
I'd rather be dead.
I would rather live in a mystery than live in a known. Yeah. You know.
Totally. I don't understand these people at all who want a concrete, solid, foundational view of reality. I just don't get that at all.
No, I don't get it either. And but the beauty is that they can never have that. You know, they're pretty much on a treadmill here. They're not going anywhere.
Oh, you would never reach them.
No.
You would never reach them.
And I don't think I would want to either.
No.
I wouldn't want to, because they might take an idea that I have and turn that into a concrete fucking commie block. Metaphorically speaking, you know, and I'm not going to allow somebody to use my ideas for that. That's why this book that I'm writing is all done in sort of funny jest or kind of a way. It's fictional magic, I just say, but it does the exact same thing. Nobody can take the piss out of it because at the start of the book I say, listen, this is not real in the sense you think it's real. This is the idea. This is the angle that I am approaching this from. You know, so they can nitpick all they can, but it is what it is. It's just let's just say it's an introduction into a magical way of thinking. That's all.
Well, that's a good way to end this. Thanks very much, Emma.
Well, thank you very much, Thomas. Thank you for coming.
And I will see everybody next time on the next interview.